my friends, it's me, Heidi, or Books and Cables. You can find me Instagram, Ravelry by the same name. It's been a really long time since I've recorded a video, and I thought, what better time than day 12 of physical isolation or physical distancing as per the public health advice right now in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. What better time it is to come back on, especially because it's been many days since I've felt the urge to talk out loud. You know, at the beginning of this, I was enjoying my introvert time. I was recovering because usually at my job I talk a lot and I'm in a lot of meetings. So by the time I get home, I don't really have the energy to chatter on more. But now that it's been sort of 12 days, I am ready to speak. And I cannot talk to Alexa and inanimate objects forever. So, here I am back with some semblance of a knitting podcast. Hopefully I'll be able to keep it up. One thing that I find...
think you want to hear the song Objects forever, so here I am back.
She was listening. 1 second. Okay, I got rid of her. She's very creepy. I don't know what I was talking about. Anyway, you know, in this time of physical distancing, we are spending a lot of time sitting down and doing repetitive activities. So the first thing that I want to say, which I made an Instagram post about recently, but I wanted to sort of say it in as many places as possible, which I find super important, is to make sure that whatever activity you're doing right now, that you're doing more of and more repetitively, that you're ensuring that you're doing it in an ergonomic manner. Because like usually we come home and as we're unwinding after being out and about all day, sitting in a kind of a weird position for an hour or two, or sitting down to knit for a while won't really, you know, start to take a toll on your body. But when we're starting to sit for multiple hours a day doing the same thing, like knitting for example, or you know, if you're working from home and you don't have, you know, a very good ergonomic setup because you're sort of got a temporary office situation going on, or for example you're doing other types of activities just to fill the time, like making puzzles or anything like that, you know, we're kind of changing up the way that we're doing our routine. So you just, I'm just out of love, and as I said in my Instagram post that I made about this, that, you know, the love language that I was taught by my family is to give advice to the point of annoying my loved ones. So because I really, as a way of showing love to you all, I just want to remind you to be aware of your posture, of the way that you're positioning yourself when you do activities, because, you know, this is a time when we're physical distancing in order to make sure that us as a community, we have ensure that we're healthy and we make it through this in all of the different ways. And while, you know, top of mind, it is not getting the, you know, the virus, at the same time, because we're changing the way that we usually live our lives, we want to make sure that we also keep our body safe and we don't come out of this with, you know, a long-term repetitive strain injury. So I mentioned in the the Instagram post I made about this, is that when we're knitting, you know, there's a tendency to sort of hunch up our shoulders and, you know, have our knitting up tight. Or what I usually do is I have an arm propped up and I'm knitting like this. That puts a lot of strain on your arms, and also just even the way that you knit. So if you're throwing, like if you're dropping you're throwing as in you're letting go and then making a big movement for your yarn, then that, you know, increases your chances of a repetitive strain injury. So Some things that you could do about that, well, you can always adjust your posture, make sure that you're, you know, at rest and all of that at all times, and that you try to have your knitting down in your lap. And maybe that's going to take practice, I know, because a lot of times you're like looking down trying to see what you're doing. But if you could, you know, start with a more plainer pattern and try to practice knitting without looking down all the time, that would sort of start the correction of your posture. And if you were if you knit with this hand, so you're sort of throwing your, so here I have my knitting down here with me. If you use your if you knit in English style, so you take your hand off and move your yarn over like this, I would suggest maybe you practice moving your yarn without taking your hand off, because that way you'll minimize your movement. So it would be, essentially you would be, I think it's called flicking instead. So you're flicking the yarn instead of taking your hand off and throwing it, which, you know, engages your entire arm. If you just flick, it minimizes the movements to here. The other thing I've heard is that actually picking the yarn to knit, because it also minimizes the movement a lot. Some people would say learning how to knit continental style or picking is actually more ergonomic. These are just things to think about, but I mean, you can also just knit however makes you feel good, makes you comfortable, but make sure to set an alarm to put it down, get up and stretch every, you know, 20 minutes or so, or at least every hour, or, you know, every hour stop, take a walk around the apartment, do something different, just to, you know, get the circulation and make sure that you're, you know, are aware of any tension that you might be holding in your body. So that's just my loving reminder to you. I hope that wasn't too annoying. I think I spend my whole life trying not to become my mother, but I realized at some point, tried so hard not to become my mother, turns out I'm my dad, and he's more annoying. No, I love him, but, you know, it's what happens. So in terms of what I've been knitting while I've been inside, you know, it's been a while since I've sort of hopped on the camera, so I can show you a bunch of different things. Right now my main project, because I always have sort of a main project that I'm focusing on, and then sort of other stuff that I sort of pick up and put down. So the main project that I'm currently working on is this is the body. I am only about an inch away from adding in the Steeks that will be going in for the armholes, and then this is a vest, so it's going to be a v-neck. So but when I get to the underarms, I'm going to basically, when I get to the underarm area, I'm gonna put on some stitches onto a holder and then cast on some Steek stitches. So these are like the selvage stitches you'll add in the middle that you would cut in order to make the armhole after. And also I would put some stitches on hold for the v-neck area. So I will start, so essentially you would do so when you would usually shape a neck hole, you would do decreases on, you know, either side of the neck hole to expand it. So essentially you do all of the same decreases, but you do it whilst there's a steek in the middle, so it sort of becomes this like weird tent-like shape at the top, and then you cut it all open and it'll smooth out into a vest shape. It's just a way of continuing to knit in the round, because especially for color work, it is very, very frustrating, for me at least, to try to knit color work flat. If I can avoid it, I definitely do. So I always do Steeks instead of basically getting to the underarm and then starting to knit back and forth. I'll just add the Steeks and then do the shaping as I would have in the flat, but just in the round. And so in the areas that you wanted to, once you cut it, all the shaping is in place. Doesn't affect it at all. It sort of takes a while for your brain to wrap around it, because the first time I was like, I couldn't picture it, but you know what? By the time I get to it, because I don't know how often I'm gonna do these, maybe I'll call them podcasts, maybe I'll call them vlogs, I don't know. I think I'm gonna stop numbering them because I don't really remember the numbering system that I've done. I'll just do videos, knitting updates, whatever. Probably won't be every day, but you know, however length they are. By the time I get to it, and I feel like it's going to be soon, because the body, I started it maybe a week ago, and today I think I've knit like all of this. So I think based on the amount that I'm knitting, it will be soon. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you, I'm going to film it, I'm going to show you how I've steeked it, and you'll see how the shaping works. It blew my mind the first time I did it, but now it makes my life so much easier rather than having to knit flat. So this is the, I don't know if I remember to tell you, this is the Fall River vest. It's designed by Mary Jane Mucklestone, and actually right now she's doing a knit along on Ravelry and Instagram, and I think it's the MJ and G Cal. So it's MJ and Gudrun Johnston. They're hosting it together, and I think all of their patterns are like at least 30% off. So if you know, if you were interested in some of these, like I think both of them do sort of very traditional Shetland style designs, which I love. So if you're interested in something like that, that is a cal that's going on and a sale that's going on, and I'm knitting it in Jameson of Shetland Spindrift, which I ordered from Sheeps Ahoy. She is a local store, I guess. She only operates online and she goes to yarn shows a lot, but she's local here in Ottawa. Well, I'm in Gatineau, but she's local in this National Capital Region area. And she specializes in Shetland wools, so she has most of the Jameson and Smith yarns, and also Jameson of Shetland, and she has a lot of books that are colorwork related. So that if you're looking for a local like Canadian store to support, you know, it's kind of a difficult time right now for everyone financially, so if you're looking to support a local business and you know you're in the position to do so, it's an option. I believe she's doing free shipping over $50 right now. So if you wanted to support a local business and have an activity to do during your physical isolation, that's an option for you. Let me see, what else should I show you? Okay, so I don't know if I ever shown the progress on this. So I bought this yarn last year, actually also from Sheeps Ahoy, but when I went to the Toronto Knitters Frolic, I bought the yarn for the Yell cardigan. So here is the body. So as you can see, I've already steeked the armholes. This one is a very basic boxy shape, so there wasn't a lot of shaping related to it. In fact, basically what I did end up knitting the shoulder shaping flat, because there's no, like, there is a way of doing it in the round, but it was more effort than it took to just do like 4 rows on both sides flat. So I ended up knitting it flat, and what that does is just make it fit the slope of your shoulder better. So essentially I did short rows. I think most shoulder shaping still calls for cast-offs, and I don't really like the way that slope shoulder shaping looks, so usually I do short rows instead. So essentially you want to have more fabric in the center to make this, you know, triangular shape. So what you would do is sort of knit to here, flip back, so you have extra fabric here versus here, and then you keep going that way until you have the tallest fabric is here, and then a graduated slope down. So that's the shoulder shaping on that. I've already cut, like, so these are reinforced with a crochet reinforcement. I usually actually don't even reinforce Shetland type wool. Some people, that makes some people squeamish, but it, you know, it's a sticky wool. I'm not really scared of it unraveling, and if it's gonna unravel, it's gonna unravel like in one spot really, and you could really just sew that down. And really, yarn likes to unravel sort of row wise, but it doesn't like to unravel this way, so there's not really any danger there. I just usually cut it, but I do like that the crochet reinforcement makes the edge a little bit neater. I actually have another Steeked project I can show you where I did it without reinforcement. Give me 1 minute. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so I actually made another project in the last month, and this is from the, sorry, I'm looking around to see if I had the book handy, but I do not. So I am a fan of the design aesthetic of Marie Wallin. I'm not always super impressed with her in terms of how she writes her patterns, and also her sizing is not very inclusive. So that is sort of my caveat on my fandom of Marie Wallin. I think she designs beautiful patterns and she has a good eye for color, but her patterns are not written to me very logic. So I usually follow the charts and I take inspiration from some of the shaping and the directions, but I often have to make modifications. For example, many of her patterns are for color work knitted flat, and part of it is that she used to be a Rowan designer, and that is a Rowan thing. It's a very traditional British publication, so sometimes, you know, the way that they've standardized in order to make the pattern short, it sort of skips a few logical steps and assumes that you know how to do it. So the patterns themselves are never that complicated, but they're sort of a barrier to entry for beginner knitters because they're just not the most logic. But I mean, the alternative is sort of the Brooklyn tweed style, where you have 30 pages for a pattern. So, you know, you have one page and it sort of skips some of the, makes some logical leaps, or it kind of holds your hand and you have to sift through 30 pages to find the instructions. And you just want to find the instructions for tubular cast on, and you're flipping through pages and pages to, anyway, so that there's pros and cons to both writing styles, let's say. So long story short, not very good at talking short is what you'll notice. So I have done a sweater. This is the Teary, and it's from Marie Wallin's book, North Sea, which is this beautiful sort of, I think the design inspiration is like where Norway, sort of Scandinavia meets Shetland. So a lot of the design aesthetic is very like fisherman. It's kind of a blend of traditional Fair Isle Shetland style knitting and sort of more Nordic traditions of knitting. So this is like a fisherman sweater, and actually it reminded me a lot of a pattern that Ellie Skandier has, which is sort of like a traditional Norwegian fisherman sweater. So like the patterning is very sort of Shetland with the, with like the X's and O's and stuff, but like I guess the aesthetic is a bit more like Norwegian or Nordic. I don't know how to describe it. It's probably making some people mad with generalizations and all of that. But anyway, so it's a drop shoulder. So again, I had to knit some parts of it flat in order to get the shoulder shaping. But for the neck shaping, I had a middle steek that I had that I set up, and then I did the decreases on both sides, and then I cut to open up the neck after. But for, you know, because like I said, it takes longer to figure out how to do the shoulder shaping in the round, then it's worth the trouble. So I just knit color work flat. You know, it's an hour at the end of the project, so it's not the biggest deal. Like I said, I did not reinforce the stitches for the Steeks on the armholes this time. Instead, what I did was, oh, well, I just straight up cut it. I was just like, okay. As soon as I cast off, I'm like, there we go. I didn't even take a photo of it, which I usually do. Oh, I didn't pull, what you call this? Weave in the ends, but honestly, if I don't weave it in as I'm go, it'll never get woven in, and I don't care. Nobody's looking on the inside of my sweaters. So basically what I did, I straight up cut the armhole, did not reinforce it or anything. I'm using, the yarn that I'm using for this is a Patagonia Farm Juniper Moon in anthracite, that's the black. And then I combined it with Jameson and Smith, one of the gray colors, the lighter one. Like their colors are not called anything. They're called like 27C, so it's something to do with 27 was the one I picked. So essentially I cut it, but then what I did to make the edge a little bit neater, I then went in with the gray yarn and sewed down the edge. And I'm really bad at putting in sleeves. Don't know how to sew them properly. It never looks right. I always misjudged the proportion, so I always end up with like a bunch left at the end or too little left at the end. Anywho, so I ended up just like pinning this all and then back stitching it in. I mean, it's not as neat as if you were to have seamed it, but I don't think you can notice a difference, not when it's on anyway. So I'll put it on so you can see what I'm talking about. Here we go. Good noise, good noise. Okay, so it fits really lovely. Oh, there's a bowl in the background. Ignore that. Okay, so it fits really nicely. It's like it's meant to be oversized. I did crop it a little bit so that it hits at the top of my hips instead of like in the photo it's sort of more mid-hip. I prefer a higher, I prefer my sweaters to end higher because I tend to wear more high-waisted pants, so it fits, it's like it allows it to be easier to tuck in without so much extra fabric. My favorite part is this flower patterning on the sleeve here. I think that's beautiful. And the neck shaping like pushed up the back so that it sits really nicely and it doesn't feel like it's choking me. So there it is. I don't know, I usually wear very bright colors, but this one really sort of kicked off my want of more natural colors, and so that's sort of, well, I've been wanting to do the Fall River vest for a while, but it sort of inspired me to pick up this one next rather than doing a more colorful project, which is sort of my generally my oeuvre, or I usually do blues, but I tend to avoid wearing like black and all of this because I feel like when you don't fit into straight sizes for fashion, you're sort of told that you're supposed to wear dark colors. It's like to make yourself shrink or, you know, to de-emphasize your body. And to me, I feel like nobody gets to have that power over me, so I can wear whatever the fucking color I want. So I tend to go for bright, very loud patterns and colors because it's sort of like after being told that I needed to wear dark colors to hide myself and make myself, you know, smaller and make people feel comfortable, I'm like, well, whatever, I'll just wear bright white florals on all that. The downside is I can't seem to make it through the day without spilling on myself, and when you wear white a lot, you end up ruining a lot of white clothes. Oh well. What else have I been knitting on? I think those are the main things. I did finish my, and I don't know if I ever showed it while I was still recording videos, so give me 1 minute and I'll go get it. Okay, 1 second. Aha! Here it is. I finished. Also, what the heck is this called? What is this called? What is this called? I can't remember the name of this sweater. Give me, okay, I just went on my Instagram quickly to find the name of the pattern. This is the Merit cardigan. It is another colorwork cardigan. It's been a big colorwork sort of, I was gonna say season, whatever. So I finished this. I still have not added the buttons, and I maybe never will because I'm not planning on buttoning it up. It's sort of, well, I could, but I think I've mainly been wearing it open over top of, you know, like a nice dress, or again, my high-waisted pants and a nice shirt underneath. It's very neutral despite the all over patterning, so it's kind of gone, I found that it's gone really well with lots of different colors. I really like some of the details in this cardigan, so I'm gonna show them to you more closely. First of all, I, again, did not weave in some of these ends, but who knows except you, because I just told you. I really like this folded over collar, that's the word. I think this is like the most satisfying thing to look at ever is this little bobble, this little bubbly shape for the collar. It's my favorite finish. Again, it's a drop shoulder. Did I have to knit this flat? I don't believe so. I think this one is just, it does not have shoulder shaping, which I didn't find it to be a problem because, well, since it's a cardigan, you don't really notice, well, no, and it's not even, the neck has quite a lot of shaping to push it down, so it's not really that. I guess the shoulder shaping is just if you don't have like broad shoulders, like drop shoulder patterns tended to be for people who have like, you know, traditionally defined as masculine figures, where you have sort of straight out and straight down shoulders, like, so the drop shoulder kind of fit that, without shaping fits that shape very well, but not so much sort of smaller shoulders that slope downward. So adding the shoulder shaping kind of makes it fit better, but I mean, I don't know if you notice a difference other than the way it fits and how it feels on you. So I mean, I think that's up to you if you notice. That's important. So again, I cut this without reinforcement, but I did go back in and sew it down so the ends were a bit neater. The button bands were sewn on. I can't sew things, as you have already heard from my situation with the Terry sweater. Did I tell you that it was called the Terry? Honestly, there is no logic behind this video. I hope you've enjoyed my murmur so far. So, what was I saying? I don't like sewing things. So instead of, so essentially for this, you knit the bottom ribbing and then you put these stitches on holders. Sorry, I'm forgetting words. You put these stitches on holders and then you pick up the stitches, you knit the button band, and then you sewed it on. And I was just like, I'm not gonna do that. So instead what I did was an applied edge along the cardigan, and part of it was that it wasn't difficult and it didn't take long, but when I started to screw up some of my stitch count, so I think I did the applied edge at a rate of like 2 out of every 3 stitches, I would knit the border on. So like on a shawl, if you wanted to do an applied border, essentially you would knit, okay, so let's say this is the body of your shawl. You would cast on stitches here, you would knit toward the body of the shawl, and then you would decrease, you would pick up a stitch from the body of the shawl, and then you would knit the stitch you picked up together with the last stitch of your casted on stitches, and then you would knit back, and then you would knit over, and then, you know, knit together the border in the body again, and so on and so forth. So I use that on this to do the applied border rather than a sewn on. This kind of got a bit tricky when I forgot to do all the buttonholes, and I had to rip it all out and do it again. Anyway, this cardigan I've been knitting for like a year. Not actually knitting a year. I think it took me like a couple of weeks to do every single part of it. I just hadn't actually put it all together. So I only finished it maybe last month. So it's nice though, because I have a lot of projects and I finished like 7 of them in a row, and then I just have a big period where I don't do anything. It's because oftentimes I'll knit a lot when I start a new project, but then once I get closer to the end, for some reason I've decided, all right, I'm done with it emotionally, so I just put it aside for a year and then pick it up for 3 hours one evening and finish it. I don't know if there's a logic behind it. It just what happens. I'm just, you know, I'm just reporting the news. Okay, so I did shorten this. It's already kind of a cropped cardigan in the first place, but I kind of started this during my everything must be cropped phase. I still do my sweaters and cardigans shorter, but not this short. But so it hits like really at the waist. So it's really nice for to wear over dresses. It's a perfect length for sort of a fit and flare dress, for example. It's kind of the same length as the LYS sweater, which I don't know if I showed you that either. Let me go get. Okay, you would have seen the LYS sweater last. We were in Scotland exactly 1 year ago in March. I know because the throwback photos and stuff keep popping up and makes me sad that I've been inside my house for 12 days, but it is what it is. Okay, so last you saw, I was in the Highlands knitting on this LYS sweater. I had bought this yarn at Edinburgh Yarn Festival last year, which isn't, well, I mean, it was canceled this year, but I mean, it wouldn't have happened anyway due to the ongoing situation. But so I mean, all's well that ends well. But I actually was planning on going to Dublin, like for the Woolen Yarn Fest in June, but that's already been postponed until the next year as well. So I'm gonna have to decide, I guess, if I'm going to Scotland or Ireland for next year. But hopefully I can make it to one of them. I really do enjoy seeing all of the folks that are over on that side of the world, if I possibly can, you know. So I knit most of this while I was on the trip, and then I finished it on my trip last year in March, and then I finished it maybe in September. This has a lovely provisional this is a provisional bind off for the neck, which I kind of did pretty tight, so I don't really love that part. You have to be you have to be not so heavy-handed when you do a provisional cast off, which is why I prefer to do a provisional cast on usually. But anyway, look at this beautiful color. This is, did I actually finish that thought from earlier? I didn't. This is madness, Heidi. Okay, this yarn I bought at Edinburgh Yarn Fest 2019 from La Bien-Aimée when she first came out with her La Bien-Aimée Mondum, and they're all sort of individually dyed, so you can see some of the skeins have different colorings. I kind of like it. It makes it unique. So it's sort of stripier on the sleeves, on one sleeve than the other, actually, now that I'm looking at it. But yeah, like all of the variation is like part of hand-dyed. I don't usually love hand-dyed yarns. Not because I don't appreciate hand dyers, it's because I prefer non-superwash bases, and not a lot of hand dyers actually are offering that. More and more are, which I'm loving. So, but on the, additionally, when you're doing color work, you often need small quantities of a lot of yarn. So oftentimes hand dyed doesn't really work for the type of projects that I'm doing, but when I do it, Sorry, that's immature. When I do proceed with a hand-dyed, I do really appreciate the way they turn out. So this is my LYS cardigan, LYS sweater, little yellow sweater. Yeah, it's lovely. I don't know what else to say about it. Again, it's a cropped length, so it kind of is a good length to wear with high-waisted pants, or maybe like a nice fit and flare dress. The pattern's by Andrew Mowry. I don't know if I've been telling you who the patterns are by. I feel like there's a lot of chaotic energy in this video. Sorry. The Yull cardigan is Murray Wallen. The Cheery is Murray Wallen. No, I did tell you about this. Okay. Maybe. Okay. I do know what I have to tell you next. So I did something very shameful. The worst thing that a knitter can do. Can I tell you? Can I confess to you? I felted a sweater. I know I've been in a haze. I don't know. I must have just tossed it into the washing machine. I think someone was coming over, so I was trying to hide all my dirty clothes, so I tossed it in and I didn't think about it, and I hit clean wash, and so I felted a sweater. Okay, I'm gonna show you what it looks like. She is kind of dead. Very, very thick. So it's not quite a child sweater, but it's certainly not gonna fit me, and the beautiful cables are gone. So, and this was like a really soft, well, it wasn't, this is not my favorite sweater, but still, she didn't deserve to die like this. It is a beautiful yarn. I think it is like a blend of merino, it's non-superwash, obviously, merino and baby alpaca. Either way, it's soft. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this up and sew it into a cushion, or I can just hang it, or maybe I'll have a Viking funeral for it, or I'll hang it up as a monument to my stupidity. I'll hang it up as a warning to the other sweaters if they don't behave. I don't know. Give me a suggestion for what I should do with this poor sweater that I've treated so badly. I'm a bad sweater mother. I don't know what to tell you. I'm ashamed. It's the first time I've ever done it. It's probably going to be the last time. I've definitely learned my lesson. If this had been one of my color work sweaters, probably would have had a full meltdown. But like I said, she wasn't one of my favorites. Sorry. So I was more like, oh, you're a dumbass, rather than, oh, my baby's dead, you know? I think this is getting weird, so thank you for joining me for this update. I hope you enjoyed my maybe slight descent into madness. This is sort of more free than I have talked on camera previously. I felt that some of the reason why I haven't really been making sort of podcasts is I felt weird talking on camera. And I think all it took to break that is not talking to another human for so many days. Apparently, I'm okay talking to myself while recording now. I hope everybody is keeping safe and healthy. This is sort of, okay, I'm trying not to couch my language here. It's an unprecedented time, and I know people are having a hard time right now. I am just a stranger coming to you over the internet, but I just wanted to say, like, you know, if you're a frontline healthcare worker, thank you. Thank you. Like, there's nothing else I can say. If you're an essential worker, you're running the grocery store, you deserve more. You deserve to be paid more. You deserve to be treated better. We don't deserve you. If you're struggling financially, I'm really sorry to hear that. If there's any way we, the community, can help, please reach out. I mean, I don't have unlimited funds, but where I can, I'm happy to send along something. Where I can't, I can definitely signal boost it. So if you need groceries, if I can signal boost it so someone in your area can reach out with a helping hand, I'm happy to do that. It's a hard time right now, and the only way we can get through it is together. So I hope you're taking care, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.